My name is Lisa, and this is Freedom Grows. For those who are new here, welcome, and for those who have been with me, welcome back. It is November 30th, and we are ready to harvest a few crops that are outside. Definitely want to get this done before it starts to get colder out here. I am in Central Florida, Zone 9A, and we've already been feeling some of the cold temperature creeping in. So let's take a look at what we're harvesting today. I already started snacking on some of these Everglades tomatoes, which is why you see that they're not as full as the little preview you just saw, but I'm just going to go ahead and grab the rest that are ripe on here. See here, I only had a few left, but these do really good here in Florida, and they're really great snacking tomatoes. They're very sweet. I love them. Here I'm going to go ahead and grab some banana peppers. These are sweet banana peppers. I could easily pull these off, but I don't want to damage the branches that are still on here. This little guy down here looks pretty good, but I'm going to let it grow a little more, let it fill in. And I have a jalapeno pepper just behind it. It looks like I have two that are ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab those. Here we have butterfly pea flowers that already bloomed, and it looks like they're starting to dry out. I can leave them on the plant and this will turn into a seed pod. I already have several seed pods, so I'm going to go ahead and remove these little flowers and let them continue drying inside. These make a really good tea. It's a flavored or colored tea. You can also use this as a natural colorant for either blue or purple. Yeah, as soon as you steep this in water, the water becomes blue. It's very beautiful. And then if you add a little bit of lemon to it, it turns purple, the water. Very nice. Have another flower here that looks like it bloomed and is closing up. Let me see if I can find some seed pods on here so you can see what it looks like. Oh, I found one here. Let me show you. You can see this is what the seed pod looks like. So if you leave the flower on there, you don't pluck it off, it turns into this. And then you just let this dry on the plant. And once it's dry and crispy looking and brown, you can take it off and the seeds can be used to make new plants, or to grow new plants, I mean. Gonna get some nice sage harvested. We love sage. Cut right above one of the nodes. And then I'll pull off the leaves from the stems when I'm ready to use it. In a previous video, I showed where I had planted some green onions here from the store. I just cut the bottom root part after I was done using the green onions for one of my dishes. I saved the roots, planted them in here, and then I noticed about a week later, this little volunteer tomato plant was growing in the same pot. So I debated on just taking it out and planting it somewhere else, but I ended up leaving it here, and I thought it was an Everglades tomato plant, but it looks like it's not. These here are yellow pear tomatoes. They're not ripe yet, so I'm going to leave them on the plant. But once they ripen, they turn a nice yellow color, and they're really good and do really well here in Florida and in the hotter or subtropical zones. This one here is my cherry tomato plant, and this has several tomatoes forming already, but they're not ready. None of them are ready to pick just yet, so I'm going to let them hang on a little bit longer. Hopefully it doesn't become too cold by the time these guys ripen up so that I can enjoy them. Looks like this is ready to be harvested. So this was really nice and full and green, and once the leaves start to die off like this and it just starts to look sad. My microphone stopped working here, so I'm doing a voiceover, but that's when you know that these guys are ready to harvest. So I'm going to bring this container over to the grass so that way I can dump it out later and kind of sort through the soil. I'll just do this a little bit later. In this container here, I have longevity spinach, and it has kind of overgrown its pot. It's in a 5-gallon container, and it's just sprawled all over my next container, which has dandelion and thyme in it. So I'm going to harvest what kind of sprawled over and use that in my next dish. What I'll do here is remove the yellow and dead leaves and give these a good wash when I bring them inside. Now it's looking much cleaner, and the sun can actually penetrate the dandelion and thyme. And this time right here, I had it in a very large container, but then all of it pretty much died except for one little sprig. So I took that sprig, planted it in here, and now it has grown into what you see here. I have some basil in this pot that I will not be harvesting because it has gone to flower. I'm leaving it just like this though because the bees and even the wasps and butterflies love it. So I go ahead and just leave it the way it is so that we can bring the pollinators to this little container garden I have out front. Here I have some sweet potatoes in a 20-gallon fabric container. I'm not going to harvest any leaves this time, although I do harvest some as I need, and I use them in my dishes as like a spinach substitute. They have a really nice flavor. I'm not going to harvest the whole thing. I'm only going to pull up the roots that I feel like I need for the week and leave the rest in here. I used to just dump the whole thing out and harvest it all at one time, but this time I'm not doing that. I'm just harvesting what I need for the week today. And I found that to be much better in my situation because I only have 2 people here, that myself and my daughter, that actually eat these things. My husband does not eat vegetables or fruits or anything like that, which is odd. And then my son lives in Texas. He's in the Air Force, so he can't enjoy this. But here I have 2 blueberry plants. This one here flowers and fruits before this one. So as you can see, this one here is just now starting to bud, and this one here already has its flowers. And as you can see here, some of these flowers have already fallen off and formed little blueberry fruits that are starting to ripen and mature. Actually, they haven't started to ripen, but they are starting to mature. And then we have some more buds here that are starting to form. But this blueberry plant does a lot. Well, it actually fruits a lot quicker than the other one. You can see these are the very smaller premature ones, And then these here have already had a chance to start forming. And now I'm gonna dump the African potato mint from earlier and sort through the soil, see what we can find. And in doing this, I noticed that I didn't have very many roots down here. I was able to harvest just a few, and these roots, this African potato mint, they are generally a lot smaller than regular potatoes. This is actually not in the potato family. This is in the mint family. And the texture is a little different from potatoes. It has a similar flavor, but it's a little sweeter than regular potatoes. And I was able to harvest a few, which I was happy with. And I may grow this again in the future. I'm just saving some of this really good soil, and I'll repurpose it and add nutrients later. I have here some turmeric. This turmeric here is ready to be harvested. I do have new growth here. I'm gonna hopefully leave what's under here alone and just grab around this new growth to see what roots I can find. And then I have this ginger here. Some of it is definitely ready to be harvested, but of course, as you can see, we have new growth here, so I don't want to harvest all of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and dig through here to see if I can find any turmeric. I do feel some roots. I have some ready. Looks like this one's off. Maybe went a little too long in the soil. This one looks nice and ready. This one went a little too long as well. So if you don't harvest it in time, like in my case, they'll just rot in the soil. So you definitely don't want that to happen. Come out a little sooner once you start seeing that the leaves have died back. Definitely get in there. Don't wait as long as I did. Thankfully, we still have this new growth here to allow it to continue growing. This one may have gone a little too long in the soil as well. I can just tell because it's a little mushy. It's not supposed to be smushy like this. But this one is nice. This one we can use. So I've got these two little hands, it's like what I like to call them, that we can use. And unfortunately these here didn't make it. But we do have the new growth. I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. Hopefully it multiplies and we get some new turmeric. And I'll definitely harvest this next batch on time. The ginger, I may feel around here and see if I can maybe pull out some. I do feel some roots down here. Alright, I'm going to have to get in here with a knife and cut what I need because it looks like it's just attached to almost the entire area. So I don't want to pull up the entire plant, but I also want to harvest a little bit of ginger here. We can do that. We can harvest what we need. I'm going to get this cleaned up and show you what it looks like once it's all cleaned up. This is the ginger. Just harvested a little chunk from the container that you just saw. And then the two little turmeric cans that I was able to save, while the other ones, which was more than half, unfortunately rotted in the soil. So let me show you what this looks like once it's cleaned up.